everyone, it's Gina from Orchid and Opal Jewelry and Beads, and I'm here with the classy crescent collar tutorial. This is a design that I came up with, and I just came up with the name because I thought it was, kind of appropriate. These are the crescent beads. I like to use the bead that is predominant in the particular piece of jewelry in the title, so it's kind of easier to search and find the type of tutorial that you're looking for. And then it kind of reminded me like of a little collar, so that's how I came up with the name. Now this is a basic design of the necklace, and I'm showing you it in different ways. This is the design we're going to make today. This was the basic design that I came up with, and I played around quite a bit with these crescent beads that came from the recent Adorable Elements subscription box. And this was their 2-hole bead subscription. This was one of the selections they sent. If you hadn't seen that video, you're welcome to go back and check that out if you're interested in that unboxing. But it's an awesome subscription that I really love, and they sent me several new types of beads that I hadn't worked with before. There's so many different beads out there, you guys, so many. So I had gotten these, and I just kind of started playing around to see what different shapes and beads I could put with them to create something that I really loved. And I was able to come up with this collar style. I love taking beads that I know a lot of my viewers have as well, so that when I do a tutorial, maybe you don't have the crescents, but maybe you have a lot of 3mm and 4mm fire polish, and that way all you need to do is maybe get some crescents, or if you have some and you're not sure what to do with them, this is a simple way to add something to them without adding 5 other different kind of obscure shapes of beads. But anyway, I was playing with these. I had the 3 and 4mm fire polish kind of fitting in here nicely. The 3mm are on this inside ring, and the 4mm are on the outside ring, and that's what gives it this nice little kind of curved shape, is using the 2 different sizes. So you really could go wild with this design. You can use glass pearls with this in 2 different sizes. As you can see below, I've used super duos down here with 3mm fire polish on the top. I have used 4mm fire polish on the top of this one, and then the 6mm Lucerna bicones. I've used 3mm on top here, and then I've used the little Czech glass pip beads. And here, these are the new mini daggers that we just received in the latest dollar bead box, and I used the mini daggers here and 3mm up top. This one is just a basic design that we're going to be doing today based on that basic design I just showed you, but I just wanted to give you some ideas on a lot of different possibilities that you could do with this style and using crescent beads if you haven't used them. Or if you were interested in getting some, you could really put them with a lot of different things. And here's what the crescent beads look like. So you can see they're pretty thin, and they have 2 holes. So that's what you'll be looking for. So if you have your materials and you're ready to go, I'll show you how to get started and make these beautiful necklaces. To make this necklace, you will need 16 3mm fire polish beads, 17 4mm fire polish beads, 34 Czech glass 2-hole crescent beads, a pinch of 11/0 C beads, 2 wire guardians, 4 jump rings, a clasp of your choice, chain of your choice, 4 to 5 feet of fire line or beading thread of your choice. I'm using a size 10 beading needle, and you'll also need scissors and jewelry pliers. To get started with this design, I really highly recommend something called a wire guardian, and that is this little doodad right here. This will protect your thread. Now, you could just attach your jump ring to a loop of beads if you don't have wire guardians, but what'll happen over time is that your jump ring is going to rub against the thread, and especially depending on what type of thread you use, if it's not that durable, then your piece could easily fall apart over time, and you really don't want that to happen. These wire guardians are not expensive at all. You can find them on Amazon, and in fact, I will put a link below the video so you can get them. And you can even get them in a little variety pack with all different finishes, which I have, and I use them all the time now. They are awesome. So they will just protect your findings from rubbing against the thread, and your findings will pull on the metal instead of pulling directly on the thread. It just makes everything more sturdy, and I also like the way it looks. I think they look really neat and finished. So I just want to recommend those, and if you haven't checked those out yet, please do, because you're going to find if you start using them that you're going to use them a lot. So that being said, let's get started on our necklace. The first thing we want to do is we want to pick up a crescent bead and go through one of the holes of your crescent bead. And I'm not going to tie a stop bead to this. I'm just going to loop around this bead several times so that it's going to be secure enough that we'll be able to weave this tail thread in when we're done with the piece, or when you get a little bit further. So go through that crescent bead. Really doesn't matter which side you go through. But I'm just going through, I'll call it the bottom, and then go back up through the other hole. So you have this, and then you're going to be putting your wire guardian right here. So then thread on your wire guardian. I'm just going to set that down. Put your wire guardian on your needle and pull it all the way down to the bead. Just like that. And just hold on to your tail thread with your hand and kind of scooch it out of the way. And it's a little bit tricky to show you on video, but that's basically what you have so far. And then we're going to go down through the other hole of the wire guardian and through the other hole of the bead. So we're coming up through this hole of the bead, up through this side of the wire guardian, and just looping back around through the other side of the wire guardian and the other hole of the bead. And we're going to pull that. And just make sure that your thread nestles right in to that wire guardian. And then you're coming out of this hole here of the crescent, that bottom hole, loop back around 2 more times. And this is just going to add some strength. Anytime you can loop around several times like this, it'll just add some extra strength to your piece, which is always a good thing. And what this is also going to do is keep our tail thread in place until we're ready to weave it back in, so we don't have to worry about adding a stop bead or anything like that. So this is the 3rd time that I'm going around the loop and going back down, and at this point we'll be able to start adding our beads. Alright? So you should have something that looks like this. And your thread should be nestled right in the wire guardian like that, and your tail thread's kind of hanging out and it's not going anywhere. So just hold this piece with your thumb and your forefinger, and we're ready to start adding some beads. So I'm going to start with the larger size bead on the bottom, which will be our 4mm. So you can see we've already done this part right here. We're going to add a 4mm. We're going to add a crescent, go around the crescent, add a seed bead, and make a loop. This is going to be kind of like a series of loops that we're going to be doing. So like I said, we want to string on a 4mm, and then we want to string on a crescent, and you do want to make sure you're putting it in the right hole of your crescent so you don't have some going this way and some going this way. So following our pattern, I'm going to pull the beads down. You can see the crescents are going in the same direction, and you're going to hold these tight. Coming out of the bottom hole, go back through the top hole of that crescent, and you will see a little thread here, but once you're finished with the project you really won't notice those at all. And then so at the top of this, in between these 2 crescents, you're going to want one 11/0 seed bead. So pick that up and go through the top hole of that first crescent. You see it kind of makes this little V shape right here, and that's exactly what you want. So then we're coming out of this hole here. Let's go through the wire guardian one more time, because it doesn't hurt anything to go through it one more time and pull it nice and tight. And you will want to make sure you have decent tension on this project as you go. You definitely want to keep everything nice and tight and pulled together so that nothing's loose. And all I did was go through that wire guardian on the bottom and back through the crescent, the 4mm, and the crescent that we just put on. You see how it's a little loose, so we need to hold that with our thumb and our forefinger and then pull this working thread with our other hand so that it's nice and tight now. So you should have something like that. So now we're going to continue with the pattern, and after we have a 4mm fire polish on the bottom, we're going to follow that with a seed bead on the bottom. So pick up a seed bead, pick up another crescent, keeping in mind that you do want to make sure that you're going through the right hole of that crescent depending on which side you're working on, and then pull. So you should have this right here. Go back through the top hole of that crescent you just added, and then add a 3mm fire polish bead. And then go through the top hole of the next crescent that you get to and pull it. And you should have something like that. Okay? So then I'm just going to flip my piece so it's easier for me to work with. You're coming out of the crescent here, and you're going to go through the other hole of the crescent on the bottom, as well as the seed bead and the crescent you just added on. Okay, so then you're going to pull that. Make sure you have really good tension on it, and this is something that you should have right here. So you can see it's starting to make that kind of V or zigzag pattern, which is exactly what you want. So now it's just a matter of doing this for the full length of the necklace. You could make the entire necklace this pattern, or you could do what I did and make this pattern about 6 inches in length and then add chain. So let's keep going a little bit. Let's add another 4mm. Let's add another crescent. Pull those down. And then go back through the top hole of the crescent we just added, like we did before. And since we have a 4mm on the bottom, we want to follow that up with a seed bead over top. So go through the top hole of the next crescent, pull it nice and tight, go through the bottom hole of the crescent that you're coming out of, through the 4mm, and through the next crescent, completing our next loop. And we're kind of loose here, so we're going to, again, hold that with the thumb and forefinger and give it a pull so that it's nice and tight. Alright, so we have our 4mm on the bottom, which means we need to do next a seed bead on the bottom. So we're going to pick up a seed bead, the crescent, pull that down, go through the top hole of that crescent that we just added, and then since we have a seed bead on the bottom, we need to put a 3mm over top of that. So add your 3mm and go through the next crescent to nestle that right in there, and then loop back around, go through the bottom hole of that crescent, through the seed bead, and through the crescent you just added. Now we're going to pull it nice and tight. So you can see it's really not hard at all. It's a very simple pattern, and you can do a lot with it. So once you have this down, if you wanted to try your hand at some other bead variations like I showed you before, you could just keep in mind that when you do different variations, try to have a smaller bead on the top and a larger bead on the bottom, and that will give you that nice gentle curve that you're looking for that works out so well with these crescent beads. So I'm going to go ahead and bead this till I get it about 6 inches in length, and then I'll meet you back and we'll finish up our necklace and add the chain and see how it looks. So one other thing before I forget while I'm still beading is that I wanted to mention that I do have a Patreon account now that I haven't really publicized up until now. But what Patreon is, if you don't know, it's another platform for creators, people who create original content, artists, things like that, who put out content like tutorials to teach people their craft. And what's nice about it is that it really helps support the crafter who is coming out with the content much better than, say, YouTube ever could. It's more regular, and also there are rewards for different levels of membership. You know, you're welcome to see anything that I put on Patreon for free. However, there are certain levels that if you decided to become a monthly subscriber, I do offer discounts to my Etsy shop, for example. And once I reach a certain threshold, if I do, I plan to put out more original content that is on Patreon only. And that will give patrons who are very, very interested in my work, or who just, you know, want to support my work, the ability to have some further tutorials and things that are special just to Patreon, you know, that are exclusive. So I just wanted to mention that. The link for my Patreon account is below. It's in the information section. So if you're interested, please go check that out. Like I said, you don't have to pay anything, but if you do decide to, even like there's a level that's just $1 a month, it does really help support what I'm doing and help to keep me going. So feel free to check that out. I just thought it was worth mentioning because it is a really nice platform and it's much more tailored to creators and crafters than YouTube is. Also, I just wanted to let you guys know, if you're not sure where to buy these special 2-hole Czech glass crescent beads, you could of course do a Google search to look for them and see what your options are, but I ordered mine through a website called EurekaCrystalBeads.com, and I'm not affiliated by them or anything. They don't perhaps even know who I am, but I like shopping on their site because I end up finding a lot of the best deals there, just the quantity of beads for the money. And so you can find them on their shop, for one, and I know they're available at lots of different online stores, including Etsy. Etsy sells a lot of not just finished pieces, but they sell a lot of craft items and supplies. And I found some really nice beads from various sellers on Etsy, so you can check that out as well as just an example of 2 places that you could find these particular shapes. Alright everyone, so like I said, I'm making mine about 6 inches in length, and I've gotten to the point where I'm at the end of my classy crescent collar segment, and I have strung on my last 4mm and crescent, and this is the part where we want to add on our other wire guardian. So once you're at that point where you want to end your segment, you can string on your last bead and crescent and go through your wire guardian and pull it down. Kind of position it like that, and then just go around the wire guardian through the other side and down through the top hole of that crescent, and we're going to finish this up. So you're going to be adding, if you're at this point like me where you have a 4mm on the bottom, you're going to be adding a seed bead to the top and then going through the top of that next crescent bead, and that's going to finish everything up. And you see how the thread has kind of gone next to this little groove. Just pick that up with your needle if that happens to you and make sure that it sits properly so that when you pull it tight, it sits in that little groove there in the wire guardian. So just watch out for that if you're new to using them. Coming out of that hole here on this crescent, we're going to go through the bottom hole, through the 4mm, through the crescent, and now up through the wire guardian again. And pull it nice and tight and make sure that our threads are still going to be nestled in that little groove on the top. Go back down through the wire guardian. And at this point I want to start making a couple of half hitch knots. And so I'm going to go underneath this thread, and you can do it however you want to do it, but I like to make, 3 knots. I make a little knot, I go through some beads, make another knot, go through some beads, and so on. And that allows me to secure the end of my working thread, and it will help to keep our necklace from hopefully falling apart at any point. So just go through some beads and then go under your thread next to a bead, make a little loop, and go through the loop and pull tight. And then go through some more beads and repeat. And that's how you tie off your thread when you're done with your bead weaving. And depending on how much thread you have left, you can go through your whole piece again if you wanted to. That would make it extremely strong. Of course, you don't have to do that at all. But I'll probably just go through whatever beads I can with most of this remaining thread, because why not? And so you're going to do the exact same thing with your tail thread if you still have this hanging out here and haven't woven it back in. What you'll do is you'll put a needle on this part of the thread, and you're going to make, some little knots along the way, go through some beads, make a knot, and so on and so forth. Try to make them so that you don't see the knots as well, kind of try to hide them next to a bead, and then by going through the beads it just makes it even more hidden and you won't see them. So go ahead and secure both ends of your thread, and let's meet back here and add on our chain and findings. Alright, so as you can see, I have woven back in both ends of my thread and everything is looking good. I'm really happy with this color combo. I think it's really cute, so I'm going to put it on some silver chain. And making this necklace about 18 inches in length, and then I'm going to add a little bit of an extender. So I'm going to use my pliers to open up a jump ring. And you could use 2 pliers for this. I'm just going to use a set of pliers and my other finger. And go ahead and pop that on to one side of your wire guardian. And I've already cut my chain. I'm going to go ahead and add on my chain. Use my other pliers to close that up. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to add my jump ring on this side, and then add the other end of my chain. You can see that I have not even clipped my chain in the center for my findings yet, and that's what I do typically. And then once I've got it attached, then we'll go ahead and snip the chain in the middle and add our clasp and extender. So I'm going to lay out my necklace and just kind of evenly match up those sides, and then clip it where it comes together in the middle with my wire cutters. And with some chain you don't have to cut it if it has a segment kind of like jump rings do where you can just twist them apart, but with this particular chain that I'm using I'm not able to do that, so I had to snip it. So I'm going to open up another jump ring, put that on this side. I like to put my lobster clasp on the right side because I'm right-handed. Just slip that on and close up the jump ring. So that's one side done. And then pop on your jump ring on the other side. And if you wish to add an extender, you can add that now as well. Just adding my extender chain and closing up the jump ring. So that's it. You can see that it was really not that difficult. I mean, as long as you have those crescent beads and you have 2 different sizes of other beads to use as well as seed beads, you can make a really unique looking necklace just like this. And you can let your imagination run wild on different variations of this necklace. If you make this necklace, please feel free to share it with me on Facebook or Instagram. You can tag me or use the hashtag Orchid and Opal, and I should be able to see that. I'd love to see your creations. And feel free to leave me a comment or question down below, anything you'd like. Also check out the links below the video for helpful information on where to buy these certain products that I'm using. And again, don't forget to check me out on Patreon if you're interested in seeing more of my tutorials or supporting me as an artisan. I want to thank you guys so much for watching as usual. It's always great to have you, and I can't wait to see you hopefully on my next video. Bye guys! If you enjoyed this video, I'd love you to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell if you'd like to see more of my videos, and check out the video description section to follow along on all of my social media handles, visit my Etsy shop, and check out my new website and blog at orchidandopal.com. Thanks for watching!